Thank you very much indeed. Your government's €1.3 billion cost of living package announced today that you heard there in the headlines has received mixed reaction from NGOs, the opposition parties and interest groups, as we heard earlier in the programme. Among the supports is a €200 welfare bonus, a €100 child benefit top-up and the retention or the expansion of the 9% VAT rate for hospitality. But has the government got the balance right here between targeting vulnerable groups and providing universal measures to ease the burden on households and businesses? For more on this, we're joined by Minister of State at the Department of Finance, Jennifer Carroll McNeill of Fine Gael, and from our Dáil studio, co-leader of the Social Democrats, Roisin Shortall. You're both very welcome to the programme. Roisin Shortall, let me turn to you first of all, because it's more than we expected. It's €1.3 billion, a package of supports for a variety of people. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said this package is more targeted than previously, but that there are universal measures such as the one-off €100 top-up for child benefit. Do you think they've got the balance right or wrong?
Good afternoon, Cormac. I don't really know what the Taoiseach means when he says it's more targeted. I mean, that would be my main criticism of this package of proposals. Once again, what we're seeing is the entire focus being on one-off measures. And we know that there are very significant numbers of families who are struggling on an ongoing basis, dreading the prospect of their ESB bill coming in, dreading the prospect of the gas bill coming in, and having real concerns about when they have to go shopping, knowing that they're going to really struggle to pay the bill. Now,
But they're targeted one-off measures, are they not?
Well, they're not targeted one-off measures insofar as, for example, the child benefit, €100 paid right across the board. And what we would argue very strongly for is targeting those supports at those people who need them most.
The welfare payments, Roisin.
Well, the welfare payments are a one-off payment. We have to bear in mind that all of the welfare payments fall very far behind what is required in order to keep pace with inflation. So very large numbers of people who are dependent on welfare, people on disability payments, pensioners and others are actually below the breadline. And I mean, that has been established by research, done by a number of different organisations. And one of my particular concerns is the fact that we have such a high rate of child poverty in this country at a time when this is a rich country by any standard, and yet we know that there's about 690,000 people living in deprivation, and over 200,000 of those being children. And I today in the Dáil drew attention to this.
Well, okay, let the Minister answer that. Let's pick up on that point.
I'll come back to you just on those categories of children who are most deprived.
But the children who are most deprived, and generally it's not targeted enough, one-off payments, and it's behind inflation. How do you defend that, Minister?
Well, the first thing is that when we had the budget in October 2023, it was the largest budget in the history of the state in terms of what was available to provide supports for a whole range of different people throughout the winter. And we said that we weren't sure where things were going to be in February as regards the war, as regards energy prices, as regards inflation. And this is what the minister said at that point, keeping some back in the tank to be able to provide further targeted supports. Where now in that period, we've seen a better than expected winter in terms of weather, and the energy prices have come down slightly. We've seen inflation, the rate of inflation reduce. So we have tried to provide now what we believe is the best supports at this moment until the budget in October.
Is it enough?
And so where that is, well, it is the most amount that has been provided ever in a 6-month period.
Is it enough?
It is the amount that we have available, Cormac, because at any stage...
it's not, because you have more available.
We do not have more available.
You have $5 billion in surplus.
We have an overall deficit of $5 billion if you take away the windfall corporate taxes. And I don't want to be back here a different day.
No, but let's talk about what we do have. Not if we take away something. You have in the bank, you have €5 billion.
An €11 billion budget in October. An additional €1.3 billion being announced today, not 6 months later. At the same time. Cormac, would you like me to finish the point?
No, because I'm picking up on as I did with Roisin, I'm picking you up on something that you said.
Would you like me to answer the questions that you've asked me?
My question to you was, is it enough? And you said it is as much as we can give. It's not.
It is the amount that is available now in order to maintain sustainability in our public finances, in order to be able to hold further back for October, the budget in October 2023, for budget 2024 in October 2023. So it is the amount that is available right now, having regard to all of those things and having regard to those macroeconomic pressures. And it is a very, very considerable set of additional packages. And when you consider that some of the measures that were introduced in the budget are now only taking effect, the tax changes, the social welfare increases, the rent credit for people to be able to apply for a €500 rent credit, €1,000 if they're a couple, those things are kicking into effect now, in addition to the lump sum payments that were made available in a more urgent way before
Isn't
Christmas.
that a fair point, Roisin Shortall? If you're criticising this, you cannot criticise it in isolation. You have to take the previous budget into account as well.
Oh, I'm doing that, Cormac, and I'm specifically talking about child poverty. Now, we know from the Vincent de Paul and the Children's Rights Alliance and other organisations, Bernardo's, that we have a real problem in this country in relation to significant numbers of children who are living in poverty. And the Vincent de Paul had said recently, that growing up in poverty is associated with worse outcomes across almost all key aspects of a child's life. So let's consider, those children that are most deprived and in the poorest circumstances. They are the children of parents who have disabilities. They are the children of lone parents. They're the children of people who are working on low pay. And what is the government doing about that? So we look at the welfare payment, for example, that is available to children of people on disability payments and also on lone parent payments. Those children are the financial support for those children. If a child is under 12, it's €42 a week. If it's a teenager over 12, it's €50 a week. Now, in the budget that the Minister there is talking about, last October's budget, the government increased those rates by €2 per week per child. €2.
And what would you increase it by?
Can I just say, that was in the context of a bonanza budget of €11 billion. And that was the most that the government could provide in
€100
October.
child benefit top-up today, as well as the €200 bonus welfare payments.
Okay.
How would you do any better?
Okay, so that is a once-off payment.
Yeah, but how would you do any better, given the macroeconomic pressures that the Minister has mentioned?
Okay, so that is the child benefit lump sum is a once-off payment, and it is paid to every family with young children, including to millionaires in this country.
Yeah, so what would you do?
So, we need to be targeting the resources that are available. And we called in October for the increase in the the qualified child payment to go up by €12.
How much would that cost?
And I don't have that right in front of me at the moment. I can give you.
Do you know we can afford it then?
If you give me a moment.
Yeah, but do you know we can afford it?
But isn't it better to target those payments?
No, of course
rather
it is. But
than
as long
make
as we
those
can
payments
afford it,
available?
because I don't know. But the Minister is talking about a deficit, and the Minister is talking about macroeconomic pressures, and of course increase it by that much because they are the most vulnerable people. As long as the economy can take it, can you assure us it can?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there are choices that are made by government. There were choices made in the October budget to give tax breaks to the better off that cost about €1 billion. And I mean, it's big questions arise then about the government's priorities in relation to how they spend money. But today was, an opportunity to correct the mistakes that were made in October.
I know by the Minister's face she's in vehement disagreement with you. So what are you picking Roisin Shortall up on there?
If I could make 2 points. One on tax. The tax, it benefits all workers, and it's important that it's important that we provide support to everybody, because everybody is facing the price increases that we're expecting. The tax changes impact everybody, and a whole range of supports have to be universal. On the child poverty piece, on the targeted measures, Roisin picks a figure there of €2, and I understand why she does that. But what it doesn't do is acknowledge the choices that government has made about targeting supports to DEIS schools. In the budget, we expanded the Hot Meals programme to 320 new DEIS schools, and today we've extended it to all DEIS schools. That's 64,500 children, plus 8,000 children now for the first time in all of the special schools in the state. That is a huge budgetary commitment, but it is a targeted commitment at those children most in need, economically economically and most in need from a broader vulnerability perspective.
So
There is, if I may continue,
Hang on.
there is a second extension, a €100 increase in October, and again a €100 increase in the back to school clothing and footwear allowance, which brings it now for a child under the age of 11 up to €360, and as a child in their teenage years up to €485.
Significant, but they're one-off payments.
Which they're annual payments, which sits with the extension of the thresholds with the working family payment, which is a very considerable additional
will
support.
those
In
increases be
addition
repeated
to
every year?
In addition to, yes, as you know, some of the measures are permanent measures, for example, the increase in threshold to working family payments, the additional payments there, and we did, in addition to that, the once-off payments to provide particular support at a time of huge energy prices. And to be honest with you, Cormac, those things have to be one-off because we have to reflect the time that we're in. They were major energy prices, but if we were to build those into our public finances in a permanent way, then we do run into sustainability issues.
Can I discuss
so we have to get that balance right.
Take two measures and two decisions that you've taken here and juxtapose them. You decided to extend the low 9% VAT rate for the hospitality sector, and yet you didn't give a full top-up to child benefit recipients. You didn't give the full 140 payment per child. You gave €100. Now, one leading economist in the country called the extension of the 9% VAT rate a waste of money today on this station because they don't need it, he says. And certainly people in receipt of child benefit, the vast majority who are struggling, they certainly need the money. So I wonder what you could have done with the €300 million if you were to disperse it on the children of the country.
That's very interesting juxtaposition. How interesting. The €100 payment benefits everyone in the same way, that with children in the same way as the tax changes. And these are the choices that government needs to make. But I was down, for example, in Cashel last week talking to small businesses that are really struggling with coffee shops. They're trying to keep people employed. They're trying to keep front-facing businesses open in the face of very difficult energy costs. We're trying to do more for those businesses with the energy scheme. But at a difficult time, trying to keep people employed, I think that really is important.
Are you
going
equating
through the
VAT rate
No,
with,
I'm not.
with the
But
child benefit payment?
No, but you are. You are the person who juxtaposed those
I'm saying you could have used the 300
choices.
No, don't misrepresent what I said.
That's exactly what you said. You have brought
Hang
those
on.
two things together.
Hang on a second here now. Hang on a second here.
Let's talk about two different things if you like.
No, don't misrepresent the question.
That's what you did.
I'm saying you could have taken the €300 million and you could have used it for the living alone payment or the child benefit payment, or you could have given it to the Capuchin Day Centre. You could have given it to Focus Ireland. You chose not to do that. You said that €100 of an increase in the child benefit payment was enough. That is your decision.
And we also could have taken, for example, the choice not to restore the higher prices for petrol and used it for somewhere else. You're quite right to identify that government has to make choices, and it has to make choices for the broadest number of people.
And I don't understand the choice in relation when you had the
the
potential of €300 million to help the neediest people in society, yet you decided to extend the VAT rate for a sector that really people are scratching their heads and saying, why do they get it?
And what I'm saying to you is I don't agree with that analysis.
Why?
I don't,
Explain to me, please.
Because there are businesses up and down Ireland that are employing people. They're employing parents. They're employing people who have dependents. They're keeping those businesses going in the face of very significant energy price increases. So you might make that choice. But we take the view that the most important thing for any family, the most important thing for any child is a job.
Okay, so
and
the question then
employment
is...
and maintaining the capacity for employment is really
I'll come back to Roisin in just a second. But on that, the question posed by Edgar Morgan Roth. Sorry?
Pardon me? Please. The question point by
the
Edgar
question
Morgan Roth.
posed by Edgar Morgan Roth, who's a leading economist, and he was on this last Sunday. He said, why is this sector being singled out, hospitality? Why not other sectors that are employing parents up and down the country that are struggling with costs as well? Why not them as well? Why not extend the VAT rate to them?
That's what we're trying to do with the Business Energy Support Scheme, is try to provide support to all of the businesses that are facing energy difficulties. When we had the pandemic, we tried to provide the Employment Wage Subsidy Scheme to try to maintain the employment link with businesses, to try to support businesses for themselves because it's good for the economy, but also for employers, as employers childcare in every community in Ireland.
But they don't get a
these
special
are the
VAT rate.
These are the important choices that we've tried to make. The VAT rate is the last one. It has to go back up. We want to continue to support business in every way throughout the summer period, but it is going back up then at the end of that. But these are the broader choices that we try to make to support every part of our economy so that we continue to support families right across Ireland.
There's a text here, Roisin, that says you can please some people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. It's a 1.3 billion euro package, as I said at the start. Much more than people expected. I just wonder, if it was 2 billion, would you still be complaining?
Look, Cormac, my question is, are we as a country serious about tackling the problem of child poverty or not? The Taoiseach, when he became Taoiseach in December, said he was going to prioritise that. There's no evidence that he's doing that. They didn't do that in the budget in October with the €2 increase for children who are dependent on welfare. They had an opportunity to correct that today, and they didn't introduce any increase whatsoever. Now, it's not me just saying this, it's the Children's Rights Alliance who have, expertise in this area, and they have repeatedly said that the qualified child payment is a crucial intervention to tackle child poverty. Equally, the Vincent de Paul said government should have invested additional supports to the poorest children through the qualified child payment. Now, as a rich country, are we going to tackle the issue of child poverty or not? And why has the Taoiseach not followed through on the commitment that he gave?
But the way in which we're approaching that is a different political choice. We're trying to do that by delivering hot meals in schools for the most vulnerable children. We're trying to do that by making sure that children don't face additional costs going back to school, that there are free books, that there are nearly free school transport. We're making the change there. We're trying to provide the support in a different way. We're trying to make sure, we could give additional money, as Roisin would choose to do, to the qualified child payment. Instead of that, we're saying, hey, we're going to provide all the hot meals, which, by the way, is breakfast and a hot meal. And we think that's our political choice, to deliver that to children in schools. And that's the choice that we've made, in addition to the back to school allowance changes, in addition to the working family payment targeting, in addition to the free school books, in addition to the nearly free transport scheme. That's just a different political choice. But to say that means that we don't care about child poverty or we don't care about supporting children, it just isn't factually there. It just isn't factually there. It's just a different political choice in terms of delivery.
I didn't say you didn't care, but what I'm saying is, are we going to tackle this in a meaningful way? Most of those measures that you announced there, they're welcome, but most of them are once-off measures. And the point I'm making is that children living in...
There's a mix, Roisin, in fairness.
Yeah, can I just say this? Children living in poor families need weekly support through, income support through the welfare payment. And the idea that any family could care for a child and feed them adequately and clothe them on €42 a week, indicates, a government that is out of touch.
I'll give you a final word on that.
Part of it, even just on feeding, part of what we're doing is we're saying we're taking that money and we're providing it to schools in DESH areas, DESH schools, for 2 meals a day, the breakfast and the lunch. And we think that's a better way of making sure that every kid gets that reliably 5 days a week. And we think that's a really important support. And it is, by the way, one of the things that we know makes a difference to children in schools.
Minister State Jennifer Carroll McNeill of Fine Gael and Roisin Shortall, co-leader of the Social Democrats, thank you very much indeed.